In today's episode of the Growing Your Business podcast, we're going to be delving into a very important topic that affects a lot of business owners, whether you're handmade or not, and that is imposter syndrome. But before we get started, we'll do a quick introduction. My name's Jacki Chaplin. I'm a crochet business owner, and who are you?
I'm Rebecca Merker, and I'm an artisan jeweler.
So we'll first start by defining what imposter syndrome is, and then kind of go from there. So if you don't know the term or what it means, it's basically when you're doing something, whether it's your business or living your life, and you start to doubt your skills and your ability to do things, and then you start doubting whether other people are perceiving you as a fake or a fraud, and you just kind of feel like you're making it up as you go along kind of vibe. That's imposter syndrome.
Sounds like life.
Yeah, because you get that thing where I recommend this to everybody, but then it goes hand in hand with it. Fake it till you make it. Just, so-and-so doesn't actually, know your, level of experience, And I'm not saying lie about it, but, if you speak with confidence and don't, about it, you'll come off as, authoritative on whatever you're talking about. Mm-hmm. So, fake it till you make it. When I started YouTube, I just jumped into YouTube. I'd been doing YouTube forever, and that's not true. I needed to do that to, get the ball rolling, and now I do YouTube.
Being
so it
honest,
kind of goes,
hand
in hand. Yeah, I'm definitely not recommending you go out and act like you have 10 years of experience if you've, literally done something one time. But, if you've done something one time and, a little bit about the subject, you're, allowed to say, I know a little bit about this subject. Here are my thoughts.
And whether you've done it 1 year or you've been doing it for 14 years, you always encounter a little bit of imposter syndrome. I've been making jewelry for 14 years. I don't consider myself an expert on the subject, but I do enjoy speaking about the things that I've learned and know about, and I love to share with others.
Yeah, and I've not been crocheting that long, but given the fact that this is not my first business, that's why my YouTube channel is more about the business aspect of crochet versus just crochet in particular. Because I'm comfortable with that. This is not my first business. I do think I have some level of authority on the topic of business. I've got a whole business related degree. But yeah, I'm not acting like I know everything. I definitely don't know everything, and I learn stuff every day.
It's a growing process, and one of the big things with imposter syndrome is it can hit you at any point in time, and it's really just this feeling of defeat, or sometimes it's enacted by somebody else questioning you and not having the answer available. And I know I've had this conversation with other people on unrelated to business subjects, because imposter syndrome can really creep up in regular life too.
Yeah.
Where they'll ask a question about something you know about, but in that moment you can't grasp the information. You know it, but you don't know what it is at the second, and suddenly you feel like you're a fraud. You're standing up there and you're telling people something, but you don't have all the information, and you don't need to have everything at your grasp 24/7. There's a lot of information out there in the world. We're not going to know everything all the time.
It's impossible to know everything, even if you've been in business 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. With how rapidly technology and the times change, you're not going to know everything anyway. Maybe 20 years ago you might have, but not today. Things evolve super fast, and it just kind of is what it is. So one, acknowledging that you'll never know everything up front can be one way to combat it. Two, acknowledging that you're not the only one to go through it, so you can feel less alone in it. That can be helpful too. And then if you get caught up, out in public talking about your business, and somebody asks you a question you don't know, it can be kind of awkward to say you don't know. But you could also recommend they email you about it, and then tell them you'll have an answer for them later. You want to give them the most up-to-date information, so you could kind of play it off and then get the information and give it to them. Mm-hmm. And then that was a learning experience for you as well.
You can also say, hold on a second, let me go look through. And for me, people ask me about my prices on I have a lot of things that are tagged with their prices on them, and I have a few things that aren't, and I have 200 and something pieces. It's a lot to keep in mind at the moment. I've stopped people and been hold on, let me look on my website, see if I can confer the right price before I just give you a random number. Because if I give you a random number, I assure you it will be wrong.
Yeah.
It might not seem like it's related to imposter syndrome at first, but it's the same general idea. Hold on a second, I made a note of this earlier in the day, or I just learned about this a couple weeks ago. Let me get that information for you.
Just offering to get the information really helps, and you can be super upfront about not knowing at all, or you could be I think I know, but let me just confirm it, so you don't have to sound a dunce, But it's okay if you don't know things, because I promise anyone you're talking to at some point or another has been asked a question they don't know the answer to. Mm-hmm. So people and my experience, are typically not judging as harshly as you judge yourself anyway.
I mean, I would absolutely agree. Now, some people do kind of, they like to test your knowledge. I have it in jewelry all the time, especially once I work with gemstones and natural pieces. People will come up and they kind of like quiz you. First, you should know that you don't actually have to accept that. You do not have to be like, oh, let me share all my knowledge. But if you love to, I'd love to share the knowledge I have. And you're willing to go along with the conversation, even if it's a little uncomfortable at first, the more you go along with it, the more natural that groove will be.
Yeah. Yeah, talking to somebody in like the first 3 minutes feels more stressful than like, you know, the next like 10.
Very uncomfortable at first. And once somebody gets to know you, they're more willing to talk with you on more of a connection base rather than a quizzing base. And you want to reach that point of connection with everybody. And it's a big breakthrough for imposter syndrome when you're connecting with other people. And not that they view you as an expert, but that they view you as somebody to go to that they could get reliable, real information from.
Yeah, authenticity goes a long way. And you are being authentic if you tell people that you don't know everything, but you're doing like the best you can and that you're willing to learn. That goes a long way. I have people tell me all the time on my YouTube channel that they like watching my videos just because like I'm authentic as a person. And it's not because it's the highest production value or like the most professional video or I'm like spouting like the best information. It just comes from just being myself. And like yourself is good enough.
Well, and sometimes we have it kind of goes into imposter syndrome a little bit. We have this tendency to be like a realist about ourselves. Me and Jacki were talking earlier. I've been told multiple times that I look like an extremely organized person. And then you get to know me and realize that, hey, I'm just going through the process. And yeah, I've learned some things that work with my business, but they were not like immediate things that kind of fell into place. Everything from like my office space getting a mess during busy times to, you know, my scheduling not always being on point, and I'm always a work in progress. I also believe that I learn things as I go, and so, you know, my branding and my jewelry has actually changed many times over the years.
The person you were when you started your business is not the person you're gonna stay in your business. So you're not fake if you change or like adapt. You're just staying true to who you are and what you want to do in business. And, you know, some business owners are like a little bit messy. Mm-hmm. Some business owners are super organized, do things just so same way every time. Some business owners are in between. My yarn's really organized. My desk is not.
Posts are really organized. My office is not.
Oh yeah, she's got a pretty aesthetic Instagram. It's pretty impressive. But she'll also in a live, because she's not trying to like hide that, like pan around to like the chaos. I frequently in my like videos have my like kids coming into the frame and like things in the background like that, and I like a lot of the times leave that in as long as it's not like stepping on a point I was trying to make in the video, because that's just like real.
Yeah, and that's the part of the authenticity, and it makes you human. I think that also goes to a point in the scheduling that we talked about in previous episodes where, you know, sometimes my stuff looks a little bit more like on point organized because I do work at times in which nobody really is interrupting me, whereas Jacki's looks very human, and I still think your stuff looks really aesthetic, honestly. But like your videos are very human, they're connected because you showcase that, hey, I'm a person with a family who is working all day long, and this is how I'm doing it, especially in the world we live in now, where many people work at home.
I like it. And I will say, if you are a messy person, but you're embarrassed to show your messiness, we're not saying you're a fake if you don't ever portray that side of you. Mm-hmm. Because if you can make enough content or videos that like look super aesthetic and like clean cut, that probably means some part of you is that way. If you're only choosing to reveal that about yourself on the internet,
that's okay.
I don't think that makes you fake, and I think that's like, you know, fair game, full. No one said just because you're on the internet you have to show all the messy shit in your life.
Connection works in many different ways, and so you might be connecting with your audience because
portraying
you have
the
a clean
person
aesthetic.
You want to portray is, I think, a little bit different than being fake. And I know a lot of people come after like the super aesthetic, nice looking, like Pinteresty, Instagram-y people. But if that's like what they want to portray, I have like zero issues with it. Like, do I think their life's like that 100% of the time? No. And if it is, I'm jealous.
Honestly, I'd love that for them. But honestly, I also like to watch clean aesthetic videos because it reminds me that I could definitely clean my space if I wanted to. And I do actually clean. Like, my areas do end up really aesthetic and pleasing and cleaning like all around. and then I work. So like,
yeah, it becomes destroyed again. That's why my desk is a mess right now. I was like mid-project for like 3 days, 2 different projects. So it's like really extra messy.
See, my office is definitely the compilation of 14 years of doing what I'm doing, and that's what it looks like. It looks like somebody who's been in here 14 years, and not specifically in this space 14 years, but has had their business for 14 years and spread out and has a lot going on.
Yours gives me anxiety, not because of the amount of stuff, but because of the amount of like tiny containers. It's like visual clutter.
I work in micro beads and like faceted
And that
stones.
makes
Everything
sense.
is teeny tiny.
And I work with the fluffiest, biggest skeins of yarn. So one full skein is like this big. I compare it to like a basketball because it's almost like basketball size.
We have very contrasting personality setups in the way we do things. Yeah, it's
so
just... And, like, there's room for every person out there. There's space for you and however you are. And so I know it's really easy to get in that mindset that I am falsifying things or that this is not me or I don't actually know what I know about. But there's also room to say, hey, I'm growing and this is what I've learned and I love what I learned, and nobody else has really the right to put you down and say you don't know what you know, because you do. You did the research, you're taking the time, you're watching this video, which gives us a good idea that you're taking the time and listening and trying to find all of the information, things that we have all done in the past too.
Yeah, so basically, we all started from not knowing anything about our business, and just being willing to learn helps it. And if it makes you feel better too, you can seek out formal education and things, and that's kind of like a confidence booster, because if you have a degree or a certificate in something, that's like kind of unquestionable authority over something. Whereas if you just like, YouTube educationed it, somebody could question that a little more than having like an actual like degree. Or I see your like little gemological, is that how you say that?
Yeah, there's certifications. I have that one framed and another one that
really, because the other one up there says Hogwarts. I don't think that's real.
It's not.
Hello, editing Jackie here for just a second. That's why the video is paused and you're seeing a black screen. I just wanted to take a second and clarify that I was not intending to imply that like you need a formal education, which listening back to it, that's kind of how it sounds, I feel like. I was just simply implying that if you wanted to, and if you want that confidence boost, a formal education is something to consider. But there are absolutely tons of successful business owners that do not have any sort of like formal education that do perfectly well in their industry. So that is all for voiceover editing, Jackie, and we can get back to the video. So this episode we've been talking a lot about imposter syndrome and some things you could do to overcome it. In the next episode we are going to be talking about in-person markets, which is where you might experience imposter syndrome more because you're more on the spot, because you are face-to-face with your customer then. But we will discuss, how to more or less communicate with your customers effectively in the next episode as well. So we will see you then.
Yeah, have a good night.
Are you prepared?
No, I'm trying to read this. You're interrupting me.
Well, okay. You read, I'll talk. Is that gonna like... Can both happen at the same time?
I don't think so, because we also planned on using the video portion of this. So give me just a second. I'll read through it fast.
Okay.
Just stare at the camera awkwardly.
Did I say something funny?
No, I can hear the kids.
Oh, okay.
Wait, you didn't say anything. How is it?
Oh,
on
I just
here.
meant, yeah. I got jokes. And podcast, nope. I guess sometimes podcaster, YouTuber, I meant to say. Imposter syndrome. This. We're acting as podcasters when we're a mess.